As this person say, it really is a must see because as I've been breaking down why this is bullshit, the Gray Zone has been leading this. I brag a lot, but I will 100% pass the torch on the Gray Zone on this issue because they led to the point where everyone in the establishment is going after them. You had the Washington Post, New York Times, everyone is writing hit pieces on them. So they have a hit piece coming up in the Washington Post, and they emailed the Gray Zone, not expecting them to reply. And they replied. Not only they replied, they called the Washington Post personnel about to smear them while they are on air. And just for context, this is a shorter clip because this is a long live stream. Before this call, they explained how she's a Zionist. The person that's writing this story, accusing them of denying atrocities at October 7th, denied the Nakba. She literally said that there was no Palestine. She culturally erased the Palestinian people, and she said it was just like stand people walking around without society. That's the person that is in the Washington Post that's about to attack the Gray Zone. So this clip right here is glorious. 2024 is glorious, fam. We got Cat Williams exposing Hollywood. We got Gray Zone exposing the Washington Post, and we're just getting started. So I'm gonna get to the clip. I know you guys have been waiting for a hell long time. So let's get into it.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. Is this Elizabeth Dvoskin?
May I ask who's calling?
Yeah, hi. It's Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, and I'm here with my colleague Aaron Mate.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for calling.
You see that pause, fam? That pause is when she was like, "Oh fuck." I know we psychoanalyze it too much, but that pause is there for a reason.
Who's calling?
Yeah, hi. It's Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, and I'm here with my colleague Aaron Mate.
Fuck.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for calling.
Sure. Yeah. You wanted to talk about our factual journalism?
I did. I wanted to interview for my piece.
Yeah, I got an email from you accusing us of minimizing the atrocities on October 7th.
So I'm wondering if it's possible, because I'm about to be on another call, if we could schedule a time to speak Monday or Tuesday.
I'm gonna let it play for a bit.
Obviously won't run prior to that.
I'd like to talk right now before we do that, because I am confused based on the language in your email. You are accusing us of minimizing atrocities on October 7th, but you're not. It doesn't seem like you're. I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to do here and why it seems like you're planning to attack the investigative journalists who have helped expose a major scandal, us and Ali Abu Nima, which has been confirmed even by Israeli media and by Israeli military officials like Colonel Golan Vach, in which Israel killed Israeli civilians on October 7th. There were friendly fire orders. You're attacking us instead of doing the investigation yourself on this scandal, and I'm really confused about why that is.
So I definitely want to talk through everything. I don't want you to feel attacked. I want to talk you through points in the story.
I don't want you to feel attacked, she said, as she is about to write an attack article on them. And throughout the course of this conversation, and I see a lot of people point out in the comments, I want you guys to see how civility politics, which Max is being very civil, and the fear of confrontation, she tried to weaponize that. Later on, she's like, I feel like you ambushing me. No, if I'm writing an article about something, I wrote 5 articles, not a lot, 5 articles. If anyone asks me to talk about any one of those articles I wrote, I'm down to talk about it. But she wants you to believe that she has a call that is so important, she can't talk to the person who she views as a vicious rape denialist, who she's doing a story on. Do anyone believe that? Meanwhile, I'll let it continue. I just want to add a little bit of commentary. I'll let it continue. Lucy, anything you want to add before I let it continue?
No, I haven't seen it actually, so.
Cool. All right, I'll let it play for you. So I got my commentary in. This video is so classic, you guys don't need much of me.
And I'm really confused about why that is.
So I definitely want to talk through everything. I don't want you to feel attacked. I want to talk you through points in the story. I'm of course aware that there were deaths due to friendly fire, and I've read the Israeli media reports as well, some of which you cite. And yeah, let's just.
So how are we minimizing? Just tell me now. How are we minimizing
Yeah,
atrocities by reporting these facts?
that contradicts herself.
So I'm about to be on another call, and you're kind of springing on me. What I appreciate
But Aaron
doing
laughing.
is scheduling a time to talk so that I can hear everything
Why schedule a time to talk? You guys are already talking.
that you have to say and talk you through everything. Just the
The
way
question
I
is for you. No,
Wait, Aaron Mate has a question. It's
Yeah.
not all the, I can't
We
always
didn't-
get him here.
we didn't contact you. You contacted us. So we want to hear from you. What is your issue with us? How are we minimizing what happened on October 7th? If you believe that, since you wrote it, it should be easy to explain. So let's hear it.
So I appreciate your asking me a question. My other call is started asking me questions. My other call is starting in a minute.
When is your other call over?
I don't know. It's another interview.
Bullshit.
But I just
Bullshit.
I mean, no, but we really need to have trust. We need to have trust before we go any further. And I see that you have minimized the Nakba of Palestinians writing for Columbia University's paper. You describe them as just a bunch of desert Bedouins. Are you a Zionist?
you know, I'm not sure. Like,
I mean, I see you
I-
retweeting Barry Weiss, who's a
Ah.
major supporter of the Israeli genocide in Gaza. And I need to know, are you...
So the reason I'm stopping here because before this clip, they explained that she's a big Zionist, and she don't want to tell people that she's a Zionist. Why are Zionists ashamed of that? If you ask, "Hey Nick, are you a socialist?" I'll be like, "Yes, sir."
I thought that they were doing those walking
Right.
videos where they were saying, "I'm a Zionist. I'm a Zionist," and then they have like a little explanation of why they're a Zionist. So I think they're starting to like come out into the open.
Yeah, I'll let it play some more. I just want to add the context if you didn't watch the whole stream. That before this call, what made it even more hilarious is that Max and Aaron spent 5 minutes exposing her Zionism. That's why he asked that question. So the entire audience, I think like 70,000 strong the last time I seen the live stream, think that she is scared to admit what she really believes, which is very telling, but I'll let it continue.
ideologically committed to the system of Zionism. And it's very curious that someone like that would be assigned to this story. And it's also curious to me that the Washington Post refuses to investigate the real story and hold accountable this powerful apartheid state and is instead attacking independent journalists. You are afflicting the afflicted and comforting the powerful, as the Washington Post has traditionally done. So
But democracy dies in darkness, though.
why should we even trust you to set up some kind of call?
I mean, that is completely up to you to do so.
Are you a Zionist?
Sir, that is completely up to you to set up a call. This isn't.
Why won't you
about
say
any
it?
personal biases, ideologies. That's not what this.
Do you support Israel's military campaign in Gaza?
Excuse me. What is it? I feel like you're interrogating me, and my other
Well, you
call
just-
is starting.
You deserve to be interrogated.
please
It's highly
let me know.
inappropriate that someone who seems to have such deep affection for an apartheid state committing genocide would be assigned to this story and is attacking independent journalists who produce facts.
So as Max explained, she's attacking independent journalists, but she's the victim. You interrogating me. You guys see how these ruling class scumbags, the managerial class, weaponize civility? She was trying to weaponize civility to Max to get him to calm down. Cause you don't want to feel awkward. You don't want to be mean, right? You don't want to be mean. No, and thank God Max didn't fall for that shit. You guys see how they weaponize that? Oh, I feel you. Come on, man. You feel? Come on, you call me out. No, fuck that. Answer the question. You are a journalist talking to another journalist. We know you. She's not really a journalist. But if anyone asks me any question about stuff I believe, I would just answer them. Especially if you're a journalist. But let it continue.
Actual journalism on a major scandal instead of holding to account the state and military responsible for that scandal. And by the way, why is the Washington Post always minimizing genocide, the attack on the Maghazi refugee camp? It was referred to as just strikes against Hamas in the Washington Post. Where is this? You're the social media reporter. Where is the report on all of the Israeli social media posts, the TikTok posts celebrating the genocide of Gaza, mocking people in Gaza for having their water and energy turned off? The Israeli soldiers in Gaza proudly committing war crimes on TikTok, broadcasting it to the world. Have you written one story about that as the social media reporter?
So feel free free to send me anything, any articles or clips that you think.
Feel
should
free
be
to answer the question.
Being a sub that you feel free to send me any articles or clips.
See, this is why nobody trusts corporate media and why they're reading Electronic Intifada and The Gray Zone, because you can't even answer these questions. You can't even tell us about your own Zionism and why you're doing this hit piece.
This is like customer support for journalism.
I'm really just taking.
Like when you go to the store and they're like, "Did you call on the phone?" You know, I hate when they do that.
Bro, fam, in the email, she's like, hey, contact me. They contact her and she was like, oh my God, why are you contacting me? Let's schedule another time for you to contact me.
That's just something you say. Contact me. You can contact me, but it's not
You
serious.
can contact me, and they contact you. Let's schedule another time for you to contact me. No, I'm contacting you now. We talking right now.
Yeah.
Gray Zone is a gem. Do you guys understand how this exposes the corporate journalists, as we already knew, as intellectually vapid? The same way that Cat Williams in the full interview that you should watch, he's playing how there's all these fake comedians, all these people not funny, people who disrespect the craft, who skip steps, people who don't write specials, who don't put in the time to write new stuff, people who are not good. That's why when Cat Williams roast these comedians to their face, they can't come back because they didn't put in the work. They're not good comedians. They just following in line. They fall in line, and they're benefiting from the fact that they're propped up. That's why Cat Williams was able to destroy him. Now, that's the same with the Gray Zone in Washington Post. The Washington Post, she got her job because she's a nepotism baby, I'm sure. She was propped up, and she got the job. It was handed to her. She's not a real journalist. She's not intellectual. You think she's reading shit every? You guys know how many articles I read a day? I read around 7 to 8 articles a day, at least. And I say 7 to 8 because that's a low number. Like when I do these stories, I read every day for at least an hour to do what I do on RBN. So I know what I'm talking about. They don't do that at the Washington Post. They don't do that at CNN. So when it comes to a live situation like this, they get exposed. That's why the leftist mafia, despite David Figueredo and the Rational Natural, they got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. They get less views than Sabby Sabs. You know why? Because David Figueredo and the Humans Report, they can do a good 10-minute scripted video, Lucy. They can write an outline. They can prepare graphics, transitions that look good for the audience. The 10-minute videos are good. But can you go live, fam?
I found this comment by Joseph Bett really funny. Whatever happened to journalists with face scars, a drinking habit, always smoking a cigarette, slight depression caused by carrying all the burdens from the stories they cover?
But you see, but the Humans Report, Cal and all these people get way less views. Their live streams are pathetic compared to how many subscribers they get. Like, once again, Stabby Sabs whooped their ass, despite the fact that Stabby Sabs got like 10 times less subscribers than them. Because they're not good at politics. They're good at making a PowerPoint presentation, but if it's a live dynamic conversation, you will never see these people in a 3-hour conversation. We gotta cut our shit short because we got so much stuff to say. Because we're so engrossed. The same thing with the Washington Post reporter. She can't hang with someone with Max in a freestyle conversation. Talking about this stuff. Meanwhile, I done made my point. I'm sorry I'm belaboring the point. We almost done. The video almost done. Let's wrap it up.
Why? I'm taken aback.
Okay, well, I apologize for being taken aback, but I feel like the next step, the natural step that anyone does when one is interviewing a story subject is for anyone who's mentioned or has a reference in a story is to talk the whole thing through, to schedule a time and talk it through. So that's all I'm saying.
You didn't even ask me in the email to schedule a time or talk it through.
So I apologize.
You could have sent questions.
Because I'm running late to another call. So I'll send a follow-up email to your email with suggestions.
So you guys know why she didn't do those things that Max said she should do? Because the email is a pretext. It's so in their hit piece, they can write, oh, we reached out to the Gray Zone. They didn't respond. Look, they didn't respond. So because the plan is they don't count on you responding. And even if you do respond, they may ignore you. That's why she paused when she answered the phone, because she was like, she didn't expect them to call. That's why she doing it, but I'll let it continue. But that's a very important point to make.
Sometimes. Does that work?
Do you still believe that Palestinians, that the people of Palestine were just desert Bedouins before Israel?
Okay, Liza.
She hung up on them. So that's That's Aaron Monte bringing up the receipt that they talked about earlier. I'll play it again because I made a comment. I made a
I mean,
about
as
You
if
could've
there's
sent
anything
questions.
wrong, first of all, with being a desert Bedouin, right? Like,
Yeah,
as if there's anything wrong. And actually, I'm surprised. Like, their whole justification. You know how they're constantly saying now, like, oh, we should push the Palestinians into Egypt. Well, if you do that, you're running into another group of people that live there. It's not like it's empty. There's Bedouins that live there. So if you run into the Bedouin population, you're actually like ruining their way of life, because you'd have like 2 million people in the middle of the desert, and resources are scarce in the desert. The desert doesn't hold like the same population as like areas near the Nile or like near the Mediterranean Sea. So you can't just like shift people around like this. This has consequences.
when I was watching this live stream, I watched this live. When I was watching this live, I was shocked that she lasted as long as she did, 6 minutes. Well, about 5 once she counted the filler, right? The second that Aaron brought up what she said, I knew that despite how long she lasted before, I knew she was gonna hang up the second that Aaron Monte was done. Listen to this part again.
Talk it through. So that's all I'm saying.
You didn't even ask me in the email to schedule a time or talk it through.
So I apologize.
You could have sent questions.
Because I'm running late to another call. So I'll send a follow-up email to your email with suggesting some times. Does that work?
Do you still believe that Palestinians, that the people of Palestine were just desert Bedouins before Israel?
So, if you didn't catch that, she said, "Does that work?" She said, "Let's set up a time to schedule something. Does that work?" Meaning that she wasn't planning on hanging up. She was about to confirm whether that worked with the gray zone. And then when Aaron Monte brought up the receipts of what she said, that's the exact moment on the live stream where I knew she was going to hang up. And then I died laughing. This is anecdotal. I died laughing because I said in my head, oh, she about to hang up. And then I heard click. The exact moment I thought it. So that's just anecdotal. I thought that was funny. This is brilliant stuff by the gray zone. They later go on to roast her a few minutes after that. And throughout the course of the live stream, they like throw jabs at them. Glorious work from the gray zone. This is an ongoing theme of what we've been covering at RBN is this psyop of painting Hamas as using sexual violence. I called it out, and I made it clear to call it out the same way I called out them demonizing Russian troops as using sexual violence. The same way that I called out when they said Assad had Viagra super soldiers. Do you guys remember that? Actually, I'm glad I did this again because now I get put that receipt I didn't think about earlier. Let me see if I can find that one. Viagra super soldiers. Because if you follow foreign policy more than like a year, I'm not anywhere near experienced like Gray Zone, like Black Agenda Report, Mark Kimberly. I am not pretending to. I'm trying not. I know sometimes I can be like kind of arrogant sometimes, but I'm not pretending. I'm just getting started. I'm building my knowledge as we go. But as someone who's been following these wars in PSYOP, one thing is consistently clear. Why the hell can I find it? Is Goose suppressing this article I'm looking for? Because they had an article about how Assad in Syria, how they use Viagra super soldiers that use rape as a weapon. And you remember the story about how Russian soldiers use rape as a weapon? Isn't it funny how all our
Was that fake? That was fake too?
Yeah, that was fake. There was no evidence for that. And isn't it funny how all our enemies use sex as a weapon, except us? Isn't that interesting? Every single people that we have problems with, and they're able to replicate these lies of and manipulating the sexual anxiety of white Americans by planting the fear of the sexual deviant Black and brown person. So, once this mass sexual mass rape psyop started, I made sure to read what they said in the allegations. Many people, including people who call themselves journalists like Crystal Ball, Breaking Points, who said in The Nation and The Intercept, I did a story not too long ago where the Gray Zone called them out for uncritically repeating Israeli propaganda when it comes to Hamas mass rape, because there was no evidence, no forensic analysis, no rape kits. Police can't find evidence. There's no evidence that this story happened at all. But people believed it because it's the Muslims. Of course they rape, even though rape is haram. why would you sacrifice and go to hell? Because and this has been shown in a society that rape less than ours. Like rape is like one of the most despicable things you can do in Islam. I know a few Muslims like this. That's beyond the pale for them. But when they want you to believe it, they sacrifice that and they want to go to hell in their last military operation where they know they're probably gonna die anyway. But white people believe that. Many white people, not Lucy, she's a friend. I don't know. But a lot of people, they just believe this shit because they have negative perception of black and brown people. So not only is it important to resist this because I want to resist the manufacturing consent of genocide, but also because it kind of annoys me. It's so easy to trick people on this. The same way they call black people savages that rape white women in the Jim Crow era, they call Native Americans beastly savages that rape white women. We heard this shit our entire life. Lucy, feel free to interrupt. You can interrupt me. I can't see you.
No, I mean I did see that segment. I don't know if you played it already of the woman interrupting.
Yeah.
That Palestinian leader. I don't remember what his name is. He's like very influential.
You want to watch it? I actually have it. That was one of the segments I was planning to cut. We can watch it probably. We can probably watch it after the Gray Zone because that's the video you talking about. This lady. Actually, I think this fits. Actually, that's a good idea, Lucy. I'm actually gonna play it because it's not that long. Let me find it. It's literally in my notes. Just give me a second. It was one of the stories I plan on cutting today.
Yeah, because she did interrupt, and then she was like accusing him of mansplaining or something. It kind of reminded me of the situation with you guys and Marianne Williamson.
Absolutely. So this actually, whether you believe it or not, they had this plan, but it's actually a good idea to show this because this is what I'm talking about. Like, and white liberal feminists, and this is what black radicals have been saying for years. I heard this from black feminists even before I would consider myself radical. They would say, beware of the white liberal feminists. I'm like, what? Like before I was like into this shit, I'm like, what? It's something you always heard. White liberal feminists are the most racist people in the world. A lot of them, when you look back in history, opposed the civil rights movement. They viewed the civil rights movement as competition to the woman liberation movement. Not all of them, a lot of influential ones though. So white liberal feminists, some of the most racist people in the world. And I actually do want to lead with this because it shows why people will believe in the Hamas rape claims in the first place. I'll let it play all the way through. It's going to be very frustrating.
You say you don't approve
And
of...
do you think that Israel is a democratic country?
I
Netanyahu
know
is
that
destroying
Israel is a democracy. They
democracy.
have elections.
No, this man is now has 4 courts against him because of
Yes.
4 cases
I
of
know.
corruption. This man knows
Okay.
if the war stops,
We
he
haven't
will
got
go
time to do
jail.
the entire history of
And that's-
Benjamin
and that's
Netanyahu,
what-
who is not
this
a
not
popular
history.
figure in Israel.
This is. when
I'm
I
not
ever
here to
speak
defend
about
Benjamin
Palestinian
Netanyahu.
rights,
Mustafa, is it possible to...
Whenever I speak,
Right.
whenever I speak about Palestinian rights or
No.
Palestinian situation, you claim it is history. I'm talking about what's happening today.
No, I know, and
This
I'm
is
trying
not
to...
history.
Can we just... You talked about how you don't want Israel. You're saying Israel, that October the 7th happened. You're placing that in historical context. I understand that. Please don't say that again. We don't have time for it. You've made that point 5 times already.
I don't know
Okay.
what
Stop explaining stuff to my audience. Stop educating my audience. We are witnessing the death of journalism right here.
you have
Oh
time
my
for. Let
God!
me
For the
explain
love
myself.
of God, let me finish a sentence, man. Maybe you're not used to women talking. I don't know, but I'd like to finish a sentence, sir. Anyway, so
No, you are misleading the public now
Really?
by claiming
right, I've got
this
20
thing that
seconds
you
left.
just
I'm not
said.
even going to bother trying to
And,
answer.
what
If you
do-
don't think
ask me the
Israel's
question.
reaction is acceptable, what would have been an acceptable reaction to you? You've got 10 seconds left.
To end occupation and allow peace to prevail for both people.
That's their react. Brilliant. Yeah. Sorry to have been a woman speaking to you, but there you are, Doctor.
One of the most racist public displays I've ever seen. One of the most racist things I've ever seen. Lucy, what's your initial reaction to this? I have a lot to say, but I'll pass to you first if you have any reactions.
I mean, it was hard to watch. And he came out really looking good in the end, even though she tried to shut him down at all costs.
Damn,
I'm not actually sure.
Look bad here. I would have made RBN look bad in this situation because that was my first thought when this happened. I'm like, man, what what I would have done there, because this guy handled this perfectly. I probably would have went off. I probably would have played into this shit. I don't know if I can handle this, guys. I don't know if I can handle this like this guy just did. But sorry, Lucy, I want you to continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if she's liberal or conservative. I don't know anything about this woman, but for sure, you know, white liberal women also have this tendency. We're also kind of shielded from, like, you know, people are shielded in their own communities, other parts of the world. They see things on the news, whatever, and they have these stereotypes of people on the other side of the world, people that they've never met, you know. My experience is that, sure, there's sexism in men of all over the world. Men can be sexist anywhere. It's not like, you know, it's not, there's nothing about the Muslim world that makes people, you know, especially sexist. There are differences in terms of economic development, I would say. You know, it's harder to get, like, equal rights for women, I would say, you know, like education rights, stuff like that, in extremely poor countries or countries that are war-torn. All of that stuff really affects women and children. But I would say the biggest threat to Palestinian women is the state of Israel, not like Arab men. That's what I would say is currently standing in the way of their rights.
That's what you just said there is the response that everyone should be saying to these Alan Dershowitz unhinged Zionists. Like, what about the feminists and the moms? Like, what about you? You know how many widows you guys are creating? How many Palestinian women you guys are killing? There's nothing more anti-women than war, period. So I just want to cover one more thing when she said, because there's a lot I want to break down here. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but at one point, she was like, well, we are a democracy because we have elections. Like, oh, you sweet summer child.
Right, elections.
Child. By the way, apartheid states are inherently not democracy. Repeat after me, ladies and gentlemen. Apartheid states are inherently not democracies. That's like saying a rapist is a feminist. That is not, those things are incompatible, sir, ma'am. So, and there's one more thing. I actually don't know how to play it again. I just want to play the meltdown part again, because this is, and the reason why I say she's a feminist, because a lot of people say she may not be a Democrat. She's a feminist. Look at how she weaponized her gender. Conservative feminists is this too. I view liberals as conservative, so I view the vast majority of white women feminists as conservative. I do. They have a opinion where women should be equal, which is feminism, which we support, but it's rooted under this white supremacist ideology, and that's come from liberal women and conservative women as well. And you guys, I want to show you guys the note down again, and this is exactly why we push back at people that say race isn't important to talk about. If you're someone, and this is my friend Jimmy, this is the Christian we have with Jimmy that say that race isn't important. Jimmy, why do you think they're allowed to bomb Palestinians? Because people are allowed to happen to black and brown people. And so imperialism, anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism is inherently rooted in anti-racism and anti-capitalism. So you can't separate those things. Even though white America, you guys want to, it will feel good to not talk about this shit, but it is very important. They are only allowed to do this war because of white people's opinion of Muslim people. Look at the polls. Black people against this war, Latinos against this war, black and Latinos, despite being brainwashed by Democrats for decades, my entire life, yet they're leaving the Democratic Party. Lucy, do you know that was my goal? To get black people to leave the Democratic Party, and they leaving the Democratic Party because of Palestine. And
are they leaving because of Palestine, or were they kind of done with it before then?
No, it's accelerated. I reported on this recently. It's accelerated, and they quoted that Biden policies in Gaza is the reason why black and Latinos are leaving too, because we see that Biden is complicit with colonialism and violence. So I'm actually pleasantly shocked about that, Lucy. I did not see that coming, because everyone talk about the age gap regarding Zionism, but what
the boomers, even the boomers.
Yeah, because you know how most boomers support Zionism and young people against it.
Yeah,
regardless of color, which is true, but there's a reason why white America is comfortable talking about that, because they want to provoke generational war. They want the boomers to be like, oh, look at these dumb kids. these dumb kids support the fucking terrorists Hamas. You guys think there's a coincidence they go with that instead of the other polling that is just as prevalent? The same gap you see between boomers and young people is the gap you see between black and white people on Zionism. So, I'm sorry, Lou. I apologize, Lucy. I didn't mean to assume. I actually assumed earlier. I apologize for that. But the white people that work that friends with RBN that are against Israel, just based on the numbers, is the minority. Like white America for Israel, based on the polls, around 6 to 7 misspoke. 7 out of 10, like 70% of them support. And then we look at Black and Latino Americas, we are the people that drive the overall support down because like 70% of Black people don't support Zionism, like 60% of Latinos. So why don't people talk about that gap? Because if you talk about that gap, you had to reconcile something. You had to reconcile why don't all these Black and brown people support Zionism, but white people do. But they don't talk about that because you don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation. You know what I mean? But anyway, I gotta move on. I'm going too damn long. So Lucy, anything you want to add to this? And
no, I don't. I think at some point I got tired of the demographic analysis on that stuff, but it's true. I do think white America supports Zionism more. I don't know what the percentages are.
The same gap between, and I covered it. The same people. They want to talk about how boomers support Zionism, but the gap between boomers and Gen Z in their support is similar to the gap between white America as a whole and Black Americans who oppose. So once again, we got white allies exist, and we prop them up, and they are in community with us. But we got to be truthful.
Right.
We got to speak facts. The fact of the matter is, majority of white Americans support the state of Israel. The majority of white Americans see kids being fucking bombed. They see hospitals being bombed. They see thousands of kids being amputated without anesthesia, and we're not supposed to make this analysis? Imagine if 50% of Black people supported mass violence like this. What they will say about us. Why is there no reckoning about this? And it makes people uncomfortable. This is why some people don't
It's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable because, it's true. And also, out of white people, I believe that Christians overwhelmingly support it more than Jewish people because of like the influence of the evangelical churches. As far as I've seen, a lot of the people protesting this stuff in New York, at least, are Jewish. So it's there's obviously a lot of Jewish Zionists as well, and they do have a lot of like media influence and power, and there's also a lot of them in our intelligence agencies and stuff. But by the numbers, it's like Christian Zionists. The Christians make up the most white Christians. Make up the highest number of Zionists. I don't really know what to do about it except like maybe we have to like really be honest about the role of our churches in promoting Christian nationalism and stuff, which I don't think always has to be a negative thing, but it really clearly is right now. Like especially when they're getting to a point where they don't even recognize that a foreign nation has influence on owns all of the positions in our government. And they're saying that they're nationalists, So, like I don't think that that's nationalist. Do you think that's nationalism? So, they're not even sticking up for themselves at this point. These Christian nationalists, like, don't even. In my opinion, if you're peddling for foreign influence, you're supporting all of these like dual Israel America citizens, and then you're pushing Christian Zionism as part of Christian nationalism. It's like, what are we talking about here? What is this? I don't know. I don't understand this ideology. So.
Yeah. So we played that clip of the racist reporter for a reason. We went a little bit longer, but I think it was very important for the segment because that's why people believe in the mass Hamas rape claims that make no sense. You guys see that tendency of that liberal reporter to assume this guy is a sexist. She probably think he's a rapist. Like, God knows what she really think about him because that's what she allowed on air. God knows what's really going on in that brain when she sees Palestinian men, when she sees brown men. And that's the only reason why people believe these claims. So I'm gonna just read this straight. I need to shut the fuck up. I need to speed this up. So this is like in a nutshell, kind of stuff I've been tweeting out, helping change the narrative, at least on like my like on X left Twitter, because I've seen a lot of people like. That's why I get a lot of credit to the Gray Zone, because as everyone was like, it might be bullshit, but there's a good chance of moderate people. I'm talking about the breaking points, the crystal balls. These are all the people that condemn Hamas because they assume they were rapists. Meanwhile, this is what we were saying. I'm gonna read my tweet just to make it simple. Just me using basic critical thinking. Did you guys know that hundreds of Hamas soldiers died during October 7th? You know that you had Apache helicopters raining hellfire indiscriminately above during October 7th, which killed many Israelis? Despite this chaos, mass death, and how dangerous this was for Hamas, Zionists would have you believe that they paused combat in order to commit mass rape while Apache helicopters are shooting at them, as IDF soldiers are coming after them, as hundreds of Hamas people are dying. And remember, these Hamas people are their friends, are their comrades, and they train together. So these are their friends that are dying in front of them, Lucy. What's more traumatic than seeing your comrades die? So despite seeing their comrades die, going through a lot of trauma, fearing for their life, they got an erection. They are horny and they are ready to have sex despite this. I'm sorry for the crass language.
No, it's true. It's true. There probably wasn't enough time. Like, I mean, they have to produce some kind of evidence. Right now, it's just pearl clutching. They've paraded this picture of Shani Luke like 500 times, the same one, literally the same picture that they keep parading as evidence, right? And it was said that Shani Luke was actually in a hospital in Gaza after that happened, and that she died because Israel bombed that hospital. So it's like, they don't have any proof of these claims. Not only that, but like a lot of these Zionists, like Robert Kennedy Jr. is actually doing like an event that's coming up with the Shani Luke's parents. So he's all in on the whole mass rape allegations. And they're still propping up that one case, right? The Shani Luke family, because that's the one where they had a good picture. And it's extremely difficult for the Israeli propaganda machine. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, in spite of the fact that they have so many people in Hollywood, right? They're like one of the top countries for technology. They have the ability to hire 3D artists and all of this stuff to like produce evidence or whatever. And their evidence is still shit. Like, they, they just cannot compete with reality at this point. So it's just funny,
Yeah. So I'm going to continue this because the Gray Zone. I watched their last live stream. They did a great job. That's where I got the Washington Post thing from, where they explained how one of the victims that was one of the main people they used for the rape psyop, their family came out and criticized the media for lying about what happened. So you have families of the victims rebuking the rape story. But despite that, you're hearing this story being repeated uncritically, not just on corporate media, but on independent media. So let me continue explaining why this is bullshit. So do anyone believe this nonsense I was saying earlier? So, and it's important to remember, because Jericho Wall, one of the people report on it, Jericho Wall, I did a hotspot video about it, how Hamas plans was leaked. Israel knew about Hamas plans, and Jericho Wall, the document outlined how they would do it, and it was shockingly accurate, Lucy. Like, they predicted the parachutes, they predicted multiple checkpoints that they actually used. It was a very well-detailed plan about the potential attack. So despite the fact, and Scott Ritter did analysis on this, there have been multiple military analysis over this as well, even outside Jericho Wall, that in order to be successful during this operation, you have to have speed. They had time checkpoints, and even if you find it despicable, when you're taking hostages in the military operation, do you think you got to take your time while you take hostages? No, it's a fast military operation. We got to get in, take as many hostages as you can without getting killed. And remember, hundreds of Hamas soldiers died in the middle of this. So despite speed being so crucial and can be the difference between life and death, Zionists will have you believe that Hamas planned very specific rape breaks. We're going to take this checkpoint here in 15 minutes. And then at 1100 hours, you can take a 15-minute rape break. We know you're going to be tired. You need to undress, button down your trousers. I know you got all this combat equipment on. Make sure you take your Viagra so you can get an erection during this thing going on. Take your rape break. That, according to them, that's in the plan because they say it's systemic. So they coordinated rape breaks. That's what they will have you believe. And
right. It's not believable that it happened in that short time span, and it's obviously also projection because they clearly have like a rape and abuse policy. Israel, like this guy Alan Dershowitz, he's been outed as an actual pedophile. First of all, he was already a Zionist. He's appeared at the 92Y. Like, the 92Y is that same cultural institution in New York where there was the Richie Torres and Lawler protest, because all of these like Zionists show up there to have their events, and they canceled this guy for disagreeing with Zionism, and they didn't allow him to, I don't remember what his name was. So this guy has showed up 6 times at like the 92Y, and they canceled him, this Alan Dershowitz guy, not because he was a Zionist, but because he was a pedophile. It came out that he was a pedophile, but they didn't even actually cancel him for that. They said that, they were just like had a really busy schedule or something. So all of these like cultural institutions are really like, the pawns of these Zionists. This guy's a Zionist. He's a pedophile. And if that wasn't enough, he's also like pushed out mandatory vaccinations, and he said that people should be like arrested and vaccinated and masked at all times. So what's crazy about this is like that they're trying to like create this political divide where it's like the people that are anti-vaccine, anti-mask, whatever, cater to the conservatives, and then the people that are like anti-Zionists like are trying to like cater to the Democrats. But in reality, it's the same people. It's the same people that push the vax mandates, like Kathy Hochul, all of these like Democrats in New York, Chuck Schumer. They're also Zionists. And they're also pedophiles. Like, it's the same people that do are like in all of these things. It's always the same people.
Yes. Yeah, so listen to this, fam. So they got the Israeli hostages back, and there was no evidence that any of the Israeli hostages was raped. So this is what these dumbass Zionists will have you believe. They will have you believe that Hamas committed a mass rape operation in the middle of death in a war zone, but they wouldn't rape the hostages in a safe confine somewhere. Because the excuse that they gave, they said the reason why there's no evidence of rape, the reason why Hamas didn't rape the hostages, and no, this is a true testimony. They said the reason why they didn't rape the hostages is because they had their wives there. And they didn't want to rape the women in front of their wives and their kids. That's how stupid they think people are. So these people are going to rape in the middle of a war, but they're not going to rape the hostages? Who believes this stupid shit unless you're the most vicious anti-Muslim racist in the world? Who else believes that unless that? Because you guys see how easy this story is to break apart? Like, I'll be just thinking, I'll just be sitting around at home smoking some weed, and I'll be thinking, I'll just be random like, how the fuck do anyone believe this shit? I'll be thinking about the story. That's why you see my tweet. I'm like, do you guys realize how many logical holes are in this story? Meanwhile, at the majority of white America and corporate media, this is gospel. Including the Washington Post. Go ahead, Lucy. You can interrupt me.
Plus, even if there was like an incidence of rape, which I guess you can't ever rule it out, maybe there was an incidence of rape, who knows, in like the 2 seconds of time that they had to do it, or maybe later on, while they were hostage in Gaza. But like the fact is that this is like a modern day civil rights movement, right? And the only way it's gonna work is if Palestinians retain some kind of moral superiority. So the vast majority of the hostage, the purpose of the hostage exchange is to get as many Palestinian hostages back for as few Israeli hostages as possible. That's like actually their goal. There was like I don't know what years this was in, because I'm not like an expert on this, but there was like one like really famous hostage exchange where they got a lot of Palestinian hostages out for only like one soldier. It was like a famous case. And that's their goal when they do these hostage exchanges, because there have been all of these, there's all of these people that are still hostage in Israel. So Palestinian hostages. And when they come out, they look like shit. They like starve them. There's, they've like suffered sexual abuse, a lot of them. Like there's, you can see it immediately. Like and the Israeli hostages, when they go back, they look healthy, they look like.
I saw one of those pictures. There was a lot of people doing compilation, like a lot of graphic designers that were doing they put all these photos up of before and after, like Israeli hostages before and after, and they look literally the same. And then they have Palestinian hostages before and after, and they look like Auschwitz. Like it's literally
Like the Israeli hostages are literally better taken care of than Palestinians. They're given more food, than Palestinians. And the reason they do this, which it's horrible in a way, but the reason that they do this is because they know that they have to take care of these hostages in order to get as many back in that exchange as possible. And if they don't return like a healthy hostage, it's not going to work. So that is like that is the goal of the hostage exchanges. And like I don't. If you can't see that, then that probably just means that you've chosen a side, and you've just decided that you're sticking with it.
Well, this is an important point that someone made in my mutuals on Twitter are always based. They mentioned, and this is such a great point I never thought of before. Rape is something that occupying forces do. You know why? Because occupying forces have the time and no one protect the victims of the occupied forces. To think that people like Hamas, who went on a precisely timed mission against a much stronger opponent who was prepared to die, will waste time on rape is idiotic. And that's such a great point. I need to spend more time cultivating this idea, make sure I can master this idea, because that is a great idea that people who are fighting against colonialization and imperialism, they don't got time to rape. They're fighting for their freedom. Meanwhile, the occupied powers, they are the ones who rape because they often hold villages. They're no one who protect the villager. This is what happened with the mass rape in Iraq. You had U.S. forces that control the villages. No, there's no oversight over these villages. There's no one protecting the villages, so they rape the villages. Meanwhile, if you're a colonized people fighting a strong military power, they got support. They got ways to document and hold you accountable. Anyway, I need to move on to our last segment. Maybe Saturday is going to be longer than the regular shows. I think we see. But this really is the last segment because I really do want to cover this video. Lucy, anything you want to add before we move on?
No, I think you're right. And I think that's the difference between liberalism and populism. Like, even if there was a rape incident, I think you could say, oh, maybe there was a rape incident somewhere in there, but there's no case for mass rape. Mass rape is something that you need actual proof of. You need to prove that there has been mass rape. They don't even want to prove that there's genocide now with this case that you've been...
They said that Hamas had put it in their plans to commit mass rape.
Right.
They say it was institutional mass. That's when my ears perked up. I didn't get suspicious at this when they said someone was raped during October 7th. It's when they were trying to sell the idea that Hamas got together like, nigga, we got rape quotas. You need rape 5, you rape 4, you rape 2. Like, this is ridiculous. In our society is so propagandized, there's no critical thinking in our country. People think they're critical thinking, but they're not.